Okay, so for those of you who haven't used our transaction portal before, this is the homepage. This is our testing environment. So no live production data will be shown during this presentation. All right, so to begin creating your new user profile, we're going to click on the new user setup access link. We need a valid contact name in the account, then a username. Sorry, that's my password manager trying to take over there. For your username, I'm gonna let everyone know, please do not use any of your EINs or account IDs when you are creating your username. We are going to have you verify your email. So this will send a code to your email. It should take about 5 to 10 minutes. If you're not seeing it, check your spam folders. If you still don't see it after that, please get a hold of us. Going to create your password. All of our requirements are listed out on this page for your password creation. One second here. You will need to have at least one phone number associated to your account. You'll have to choose at least one security question. So we do not have access to your security questions or answers here at the department. We can assist in resetting them, but that will be specifically only really available to you, that information. Setting up your two-step verification, I do recommend setting up multiple methods if you are able to. If you guys don't check off on this trust this device, every time you log in, you will get an email from our system that you have logged in from a new device. So now our profile has been created. All right, we're going to go ahead and log in. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up online access to your account. Verify that you are not a robot. So please don't have any AIs or anything like that doing this. You're going to select your business account. You will need to have your account ID available. You'll need your zip code. If your zip code is incorrect, it will reject you and you'll need to verify that it is the correct zip code registered to that account. You all should have been emailed a letter from the department last night, I believe. That letter will work to verify your access, the letter ID that you are looking for is right here. It starts with an L. You have to keep the L in there while you are setting this up. Okay, so to explain this a little bit, your administrator is your master login. Every county should already have an administrator on file. If you need to find out who that is, please email us. Your account manager will only have access to those accounts that the administrator gives them access to. And now we've set up our user profile and we have set up our access to the CCR account, the County Collections Reporting account. All right,
Fantastic.
Stuart, I'll turn that over to you now.
Thank you so much, Greg. We appreciate that. Now that Greg has demonstrated how we sign up for a TAP account in the new system, I'm going to present on how to file returns and submit payments. So let me just share my screen real quick. And then if I can just have one of the panelists verbally confirm that they can see my screen.
Yep, I can see it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So again, really appreciate having everyone today. My name is Stuart St. Clair. I'm a business analyst here with the department. As Greg mentioned, all of the data that's displayed or showed today is entirely fictitious. We're in a test environment, so none of this data is specific to any county. And now that Greg has demonstrated signing up for TAP, we're really excited to walk through the new TAP County Collections reporting process. The first thing we'd like to cover is filing a report. So as we're logged into the system, this is what the screen will look like. Now you may have access to more than one account type, but for county collections, we're looking for this section that's titled County Collections Reporting. And to file a return, we're going to look for this View Returns link on the right. We'll select that. And this will open up a return summary page. And within this page, we can see that in this example, we do have two reports that have yet to be filed, one for May, one for April. However, the March, February, and January reports have all been submitted. To kick things off, we're going to start with filing April's report. So I will do so by finding the period that I would like to file and selecting the File Now link on the right-hand side. And this will open up our return screen. Within our return screen, we can see that we have a header section titled Report Total, and that section contains three different fields. The first one being a collection total, which will be the total amount of our collections that we report for all of our funds. The second field will be a previous payments field, which will display any credits on the account for that month. That won't necessarily come into play on a standard monthly report. However, on an amended report, it will come into play. And the last field is for total due. And that is exactly as it sounds. It's the total amount of the payment that is due with the report. Most of the time, it's going to be one-to-one with the collection total. However, again, we've got that situation where amended reports, that can change a little bit. And I'll be sure to talk about that in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit. And we can see that in this table below, we have four different columns, one for the state fund code, one for the amount, which would be our collection amount, one for the description, and then one for the applicable MCA reference. Now, when it comes to filing your county collections reports, there are three different options for inputting data on this screen. The first option is going to be data entry or direct entry. My apologies. And that is where you would look for the fund that you would like to report collection for. In this case, we'll just say it's 7425. We would click into the amount field and then key in our dollar amount. And this is true for all of the fields in the table. There is one for each of the respective state fund codes. And as we can see, once we've entered an amount, our collection total has automatically updated, as well as our total amount due. I'll add another one just for visual purposes here. So those fields will always automatically calculate with whatever information is entered. So if we wanted to use the direct entry option, we would just scroll through this table, identify the funds that need to be reported, and enter a dollar amount for each one of those funds. From there, we would scroll down and select Next. However, for the demonstration, we want to be sure to cover all the different filing options. So I'm going to clear the data out of these fields. And then from here, I'm going to move on to the second option. The second option is what we would call our Excel template option. In this case, we would download an Excel template, input the information into an Excel file, and then import it back into the system. So we can see here there's this download Excel template link. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And this will launch an Excel template. Zoom in here real quick for visual purposes. And we can see that this template has three different columns. The first is column A, which is titled County Fund Code. The intent of this column is to provide you with an opportunity to log your translation from your county fund code to the state fund code if they're not the same. This column is totally to be used by whatever manner works best for you. The system does not evaluate any of the information that's input in this column, but as we understand it, some of the county fund codes may not align exactly with the state fund codes. So we wanted to make sure to provide a space for you to potentially log that translation. The next column is for the state fund code, and that is critical to the import process. So when importing this back into TAP, the system will take the dollar amount that's reported for the collection and associate it with that respective fund code. As far as entering the collections, it's very similar. We would just enter the dollar amounts for each respective fund. We would then save this to our computer to re-import into the system. For demonstration purposes, I already have one prepped, so I will close out of this real quick. And then from here, I see that we have this import file link. This is text or Excel. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And this is going to bring up a prompt that allows us to choose the file we'd like to import. We can either drop and drag our file here, or we can select the choose file option, which will launch our file explorer. In this case, I'm going to select my Excel template that I already have completed. I'll select OK. And we can see that all of the dollar amounts for the fund codes that I had entered on the template have now imported into the system. Additionally, the collections total and the total due have updated as well. One thing to keep an eye on when importing a text file, or not a text, excuse me, the Excel template, is if perhaps inadvertently an additional line gets entered into the template where it doesn't have a specific fund, or we don't recognize the fund, there will be a little pop-up message that displays here that explains that we couldn't load this line. So we always want to be sure to check that and just recommend being cognizant of that. That covers the second option for inputting data into the screen. The third option is going to be very similar, but instead we will be importing a TXT file output from county accounting software. So in that case, we would simply select the import file link. Again, select choose file. And I've got an example prepped. We would select the text file, select OK. And again, we can see that my dollar amounts have updated based on the information within the file, and my reports total and total amount due have updated as well. That kind of recaps the three different options for inputting data into the screen. We had the direct entry option where we directly keyed our amounts into the table below. We had the Excel option where we download the template, fill it out, and then re-import it. And then we had the option of importing a TXT file that was directly output from accounting software. So from here, we would always want to make sure that our report total matches the amount that we anticipated, and scroll down. Do want to make a quick note of Fund 7561 for Escheated Estates. If a value is provided for this fund, you will be prompted to add a couple pieces of information on the following screen. So I will go ahead and proceed to doing that by clicking next. And here we have our Escheated Estates listing. So as we can see, the $4,700 I reported for that fund has carried over, and I'll be asked to enter the estate names for any Escheated Estates that account for that $4,700. Let's say the first one is for John Smith. We'll just type in the name. Then I need to enter the amount. We'll call it 700. As we can see, we've got a flag here that says the estate listing total must match the report amount. So whatever the total amount for all estates listed is, it must match the reporting total for the fund. On our second estate, let's say we're not sure what the estate name is, it's unknown. We have provided this checkbox where you can select unknown, and that will pre-populate the estate name as unknown. And we'll enter the remaining 4,000 in here. We can see that that flag has gone away. From here, we will proceed by selecting next. And we will be prompted to enter some of our personal information. The first thing it'll ask for is my name. Just fill that in. And my title. Next would be phone number. There also is a field to allow for a phone extension if applicable. And the next field asks if our mailing address has changed. So your mailing address will pre-populate based on our records here at the department. If it has changed, please feel free to select next, and you can update the information below. For the purposes of the demo, we'll say, no, it hasn't changed. And we'll proceed by selecting next. It's important to note that our report has not yet been submitted. The next screen that we will be prompted for is payment options. We have three. The first is the bank account, which is an e-check from a checking or savings. Those payments are no charge. There's no processing fees or anything like that. The second option is a credit card, which processing fees do apply. And the third option is pay later. So I'll walk through each one of these briefly. Let's start with a e-check or a bank account payment. I will select that and click next. Scroll down just a bit, and we can see that our dollar amount, in this case, $138,100, has carried over from our report. We will need to confirm that by double entering it. We have our payment date, which is today. The system is configured to look at a little bit different day right now. If we would like to future date this payment for a week or two, we certainly can by selecting the calendar and then choosing a different date. In this case, we'll leave it as the 1st. The next step would be to enter your bank's routing number. In this case, I'm in a development environment, so I can just add one in here. But of course, you would want to use the one that is applicable to your institution. We would then enter our account number and confirm our bank account number. We would select the account type, whether it's checking or savings. And this field right here allows you to save this payment method for future use. This is one thing where if you're going to be remitting these e-check payments with your monthly report on a consistent basis, we do recommend selecting yes to save for future use, as this will allow you to select that option rather than have to re-enter your routing and account number every month. But for the purposes of the demo, we'll say no. And again, our billing information is carried over from the screen before. And we will proceed by selecting next. And here we will be prompted to confirm our submission. So if I were to select submit, this would send both the report and the payment to the department to be processed. For the purposes of the demo, I'm going to go ahead and back up a little bit because I want to talk about those other payment options. So I'm going to select the payment options link here and briefly talk about credit cards. While we don't anticipate credit or debit cards being used often for county collections payments, we did want to call attention to a couple of things. If I select the credit card option and click next, I will be presented with a screen that confirms my amount and also provides the estimated processing fee. Again, don't anticipate this to be highly utilized for county collections, but did just want to call that out as an important note. Additionally, if we were to proceed down the prompts, we will be taken to a third-party site that the state contracts with to process credit card payments. So for the demo, we'll go ahead and return back to our payment options and talk about the last option, which is pay later. Now, you would typically want to use the pay later option in two different scenarios. The first of those being if you intend to pay via Fed wire, or the second being if you intend to just submit the report today and submit the payment at a later time, maybe a week or two in the future. So we'll go ahead and select that and click next. And we will be prompted to confirm our submission. So once we select submit here, we will receive a confirmation number. Our confirmation number is here in the upper right. And we'd like to make a quick note of this statement here, that if you are paying by FedWire, we ask that you please send an email to the department using this email template. Go ahead and select that so I can demonstrate it real quick. So that will generate an email template that looks like this. It's already pre-populated to go to the correct folks on our side. We would just ask that you please provide us with these three pieces of information. The first being a FedWire reference number, the second being the amount, and the third being the date paid. And then once all said and done, just go ahead and click send on that email, and it'll come through to the correct folks on our side. The purpose of the email is just to make sure that we get all of our payments applied accurately and as quickly as possible to your accounts. So I'll go ahead and close out of that real quick. Okay, this printable view button's something we definitely want to be sure to talk about. So if we select that printable view button, you'll note that a new window will launch with a PDF version of your report. Now, this is just an electronic copy for your records. There's no need to send this into the department. However, we did want to make sure that if you wanted to have a copy of your report available to download and save or print off, that there will be one available. So any information that you entered throughout your report will be populated on this PDF, and please feel free to download and save it for your records as needed. Go ahead and close out of that real quick. And one more thing on this confirmation screen that's worth note is this feedback section. So as you can see, you can provide a rating on the feedback, and also there is a text field that allows input for any comments. We wanted to be sure to include this in case there was any feedback throughout the process. If you have any recommendations or anything like that, please don't hesitate to share that feedback. We can confirm it will be evaluated on our side. So if so, just enter your feedback and select submit feedback, and we will make sure to take a look at it. Okay, that wraps up filing your typical monthly report. For now, I'm going to go ahead and select OK. And as we can see, this will return me to our return summary screen, where we can see that we now have a balance of $138,100, and our April report is in a pending status. We will circle back on how to submit a payment after the report here in just a moment. But before doing so, we wanted to talk about a couple other report scenarios. The next one would be applicable to a report for either May or November. For those 2 months, there is one additional screen that may be relevant to protested taxes, depending on the situations in your respective counties. So I'm just going to select the May period and the File Now link. And as we can see, I'm taken to the report screen, which is the exact same as it was for April. For demo purposes, I'll just go ahead and upload a file here. Again, I'll scroll down and select Next. Okay. And as we can see, this is a new screen that wasn't there for the month of April. Again, this will only be applicable to May or November reports. And this is our protested taxes screen. So if you have a centrally assessed entity, or excuse me, a centrally assessed company within your county that does protest taxes, this would be where you would report it for the May or the November months. If I scroll down a little bit, we can see that we have a smaller table of funds. These are the funds that are applicable to state protested taxes. Now, if we didn't have a protest, we could simply scroll to the bottom and select Next to continue, and all of the other reporting information downstream is the same as it was for April. But for the purposes of the demo, we will say that we have a protest. So I'll go ahead and select the Add a Protest link. And this will populate a new section here. The first field we'll be prompted for is to select the company, and that's a drop-down field. This will be specific to every county. Any centrally assessed entity within the county will be displayed on this drop-down list. So some counties may have a larger list than others. For this case, I'll go ahead and select Power Electric as our example. And we can see that the first half and second half fields is already selected for us based on the month we're filing. We'll then be prompted to select a protested date. For the demo, I'll just select April 21st. And then the taxes due, and maybe not the best example of data here, but I'll just enter 100,000 for demo purposes. And let's say they would like to protest 10,000 of that 100,000, leaving a protested percentage of 10%. The next field that we'll be prompted to enter is either a manual or a calculated. We'll start with the manual. And if I select that, I can see that these funds below here, which match the funds in our table below, are all editable. So I can enter the amount for each respective fund. Say, let's make that 1,000, and we can see that our protested taxes down here has updated to 10,000, which is the sum of all of those fields above. Now, we want to be sure to cover the calculated method as well. So if we were utilizing the manual method and we had another protest, we could certainly add another by selecting Add a Protest, or we could continue by selecting Next in the lower right. Let's say we would like to utilize the calculated method. We'll go ahead and select that, and we'll be prompted to enter a taxable value. Now, we have provided an estimated taxable value here. However, that may be different from the taxable value that you have. In this case, we'll call it 200,000 just for demonstration purposes. And we can see that the system has calculated the breakout for each of the respective funds based on the protest percentage and the taxable value that was entered. And again, if we had another protest to add, we could do so by adding a protest. Or if we didn't have any more to add, we could continue to submit the report by selecting Next in the lower right-hand corner. That covers the protests for May and November reports. There is one other report item I'd like to demonstrate real briefly. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. Return back to our return section. Of course, because I canceled, that one didn't get submitted. And I would like to actually take a quick moment and look at this March report. We'd like to demonstrate how to amend a report in TAP. So as you can see on the right-hand side, we have this link for view or amend return. And if I select that, I will be taken to the report screen that we've seen a few times now. Quick call out that we're kind of in a read-only mode right now, so nothing here is editable or changeable. But let's say perhaps I need to make an adjustment to this fund 7425 in the amount that was reported. I would select the amend link in the upper right-hand corner. And now the fields on the report have become editable. We also have our collection total and the previous payments amounts. So let's say that this $74.25 amount was meant to be $1,000. We would simply enter whatever the correct amount should be. And we can see that our calculations have already updated. Our total has been updated. And our total amount due, accounting for the previous payments, is now just the $900. Let's say that maybe it wasn't intended to be 1,000, maybe it was intended to be 10. The system will also account for that. So in that case, our total again updates, and our amount due has converted to a refund amount of potentially $90. So once you make your necessary adjustments that are needed, you would simply continue the process by scrolling down, selecting next, and continuing to file or follow the prompts on the screen. Again, one important note, when amending a report, you always just want to enter the value of what it actually should be. I understand that may be slightly different than how the legacy system handled amendments, but for TAP, just make sure to enter whatever the amount should be. And of course, if we had an updated or correct file, we could certainly import that as well. So that covers reports. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. And I promised that we would talk about how to submit a payment after a report has been submitted. So let's be sure to cover that too. As we can see, I'm back at the return screen. I still see my balance of $138,100 from our April report that we submitted earlier. And if I wanted to submit the payment separate from the report, I would simply select Make a Payment in the upper right. And from here, I'll be presented with the screen asking me, what would you like to pay? In this case, I'll just select the outstanding account balance and next. And then I'll be presented with two options, the bank account option, which again is the e-check at no charge, and then also the credit card option. Let's go ahead and use the bank account option here. Select next. And the screen should look really similar to the payment screen we saw with the report. We would enter our amounts. We would enter the routing number for our institution. We would double enter our bank account number. And then we would select our bank account type. We'll say checking. We'll scroll down and confirm our billing information. Select next. We will be presented with a confirmation screen asking us to confirm our submission. In this case, we'll go ahead and select submit. And from here, we will be given a similar confirmation number for our records. And I can go ahead and click OK to return back to my account where I can see that the balance has been updated to $0. So that concludes the demonstration for filing reports. We went over how to file a typical monthly report, some of the differences for the May and November periods with protested taxes. We also talked about amending a report, and lastly, how to submit a payment after a report. That was what we had planned for the demo. So at this point in time, we'll likely open it up for Q&A.